Hello everyone, this is Mr. Harper. We're going to continue today our discussion on the digestive system. I want to remind you what we've covered thus far. We've talked about how the digestive system, its purpose is to break down food. We talked about that you have an alimentary canal that starts at your mouth, goes from your mouth into your pharynx, which is the back of your throat, down your esophagus, into your stomach, from there into your intestines, your small intestines specifically, and then into the large intestine, and then finally food that you can't digest out the anus. And there were some accessory organs to that, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, that add digestive enzymes to the alimentary canal to help to digest your food. We talked about the 4 phases of ingestion. You've got to ingest it, get it into your mouth. You've got to digest it, break it down. You've got to absorb into your bloodstream anything that your body can break down, and then you have to eliminate anything that your body can't break down. We talked about how the mouth begins digestion. There are 2 kinds of digestion, chemical and physical. Your mouth does physical digestion, pushing on the food with your teeth, and it also does chemical digestion with an enzyme called amylase in your saliva that breaks down carbohydrates. We talked about how when you swallow, food is pushed down the esophagus by action of muscles that surround it called peristalsis. This continues through the whole digestive tract, by the way. We talked about how the epiglottis covers the trachea when you swallow food or water so that those things don't go down your trachea into your lungs where it begins to choke you. So that's where we've been. Now, let's continue our discussion. Today I want to talk specifically about the stomach, and here it is right here. Stomach is slightly off to the left. It is just down under your ribs. Okay, so let's talk about the stomach. See if I can get these slides too advanced. All right, here we are. So the stomach is a very thick-walled organ. It's shaped kind of like a J, if you look at this picture here, on the left side of the abdominal cavity. A bolus of food, which remember was a chewed-up clump of slimy kind of food, enters through a sphincter. A sphincter is a muscle that can close like a tube or open. It's a circular muscle that can close a tube or open it. So that sphincter sits at the bottom of the esophagus. It's called the cardioesophageal sphincter. And its job is to open to let food from the esophagus into the stomach and then close back, because the stomach has a lot of stomach acid in it. The stomach is protected from that stomach acid by a thick layer of mucousy slime. But the esophagus is not at all. It doesn't have that slime. So if stomach acid backs up into the esophagus, it will begin to eat into the wall of the esophagus and cause a common condition called acid reflux or heartburn. So that happens if that cardioesophageal sphincter does not close back properly. So the stomach does a couple of things. It does mechanical digestion. Excuse me. Muscles of the stomach contract and push and churn and mix the fluid with gastric juices. Gastric juices consist of a couple of things. Now let's talk about that here in just a moment. But here's a bolus of food entering the stomach. And that stomach, pushing on the food, it begins to digest the food into what is called chyme. Chyme is like roughly the consistency of like thick oatmeal. If you've ever gotten sick, and I'm sure you have, and vomited, you look at that stuff, that is chyme. All right, so stomach churns and pushes on the food and does mechanical digestion and makes this chyme, which is a mixture of bolus, the food, and digestive juices. Those digestive gastric juices do chemical digestion. And they're secreted, these digestive juices are by the lining of the stomach. The digestive juices contain a couple of things. Pepsin, which is an enzyme that breaks down proteins, and HCl, hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is a strong acid that pretty much breaks down most things, and mucus, which is this slime that protects the walls of the stomach. So that pepsin breaks down proteins into amino acids, that's the building blocks of proteins, just like the amylase in your mouth and your saliva breaks down carbohydrates into the building blocks of simple sugars that they're made out of. The mucus is a replacement, a protective feature, and it is replaced every several days. If that mucus wall breaks down, it can result in an ulcer, although those ulcers, called peptic ulcers, are primarily caused by a bacteria, Helicobacter pylori, that starts to make these sores in the stomach, which is a breakdown of the wall of the stomach and acids eating into that in association with this bacteria. Gastric bypass, you've probably heard of this. Gastric bypass or banning of the stomach is done to facilitate weight loss. And so what can happen is the stomach, they've literally they can cut off a piece of the stomach and reroute the intestine here. Reroute the intestine, so this whole part of the stomach is not used. And so what happens is when you eat, this little pouch of a stomach fills up very quickly, and you get a full filling and you don't want to eat anymore, and you stop eating, so you lose weight. But this is a pretty drastic surgery, only done for people that are pretty severely obese and really need to lose weight, because the surgery itself carries risks. Another thing they can do is they can literally take a band and crimp a part of the stomach, like just maybe this part, crimp half of it, so that food comes in and it just goes through just a small piece here, and that can be removed at a later date. But if you do this kind of the gastric bypass, it cannot be. Here's the lap bands. Oops, sorry. Here's the lap band surgery, where they are literally, in this case, they've just have just this small pouch, and then they take a piece of the intestine and they put it to the back of this pouch, so that only a small piece of the stomach is used, and it can fill really quickly. The band can be removed. So we'll stop there. So we've talked about the stomach and the job of the stomach. It does chemical digestion. It does mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion by pushing on the food. Chemical digestion by pepsin and by hydrochloric acid. We talked about a couple of problems with the stomach, peptic ulcers and acid reflux, and we talked about ways to make the stomach smaller so that you can have weight loss, lap band surgery, or actually cutting off a piece of the stomach. So we'll talk more next time.